Okay, it's 11 o'clock here on the West Coast, so going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Gabrielle Orsi and I'm a project manager with the Northwest MHTTC. Just a quick note that we are going to have one interactive activity with a tool called Poll Everywhere today. There are two easy ways to take part in this activity. And our staff will be monitoring the chat and sharing links and information about Poll Everywhere so that you can easily take part. You can visit that link in your browser that you see on your screen, or you can use your cell phone to text the letters NWMHTTC to the number 22333. And again, we'll be providing this information to you in the chat. Welcome to today's webinar, We Make the Path by Walking, Walking a Parallel Path, presented by Rebekah Demirel. First, a quick note about our MHTTC network. The MHTTC network is a nationwide network supported by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. Our purpose includes disseminating and implementing evidence-based practices for mental health issues into the workforce, supporting mental health-related evidence-based practices, fostering regional and national alliances, heightening the awareness, knowledge, and skills of the workforce, and providing and connecting you with free training and technical assistance. The Northwest MHTTC serves HHS Region 10, which is Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. We offer a variety of free trainings, and our target workforce includes behavioral health and primary care providers, school and social service staff, and others whose work has the potential to improve behavioral health outcomes for individuals with or at risk of developing serious mental illness. I'd like to take a moment to do a land acknowledgement that our region has a long and diverse history, and that the Northwest MHTTC Center, which is based in Seattle, is on the traditional land of the Duwamish and Coast Salish peoples, past and present. Thank you for your stewardship throughout the generations. Next, I would like to take a moment to say a word about being mindful over the language that we use today. We intend to always be mindful of using language that promotes recovery, is culturally appropriate, and demonstrates respect for a person's dignity and worth. We emphasize person-first language. And just a note that if you're sharing anything today, we are recording, so please respect the confidentiality of your clients in your comments. Just a couple housekeeping items. We've made every effort to make sure that we're not Zoom bombed today, but if that happens, we'll follow up with everybody. Due to the large audience, everyone is muted and not appearing on video. Your chat messages are visible to everybody in the session. And we'll be making the recording and slide deck and other resources associated with this presentation available through our website in about 2 to 4 weeks, and we will alert you when those resources have been posted. We're not offering CEUs for this training, but we are offering a certificate of attendance, and we'll alert you through email when that certificate is available. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to our evaluation. Your feedback is critical to our work. We have a short survey that should just take a few minutes for you. Our team will share the link in the chat box today and also through email reminders. We are required by SAMHSA to conduct the survey, and we really appreciate your feedback to help us better serve you and plan future sessions. Almost to the presentation, I promise. So for asking questions about the subject matter of today's presentation, please use the Q&A box. That helps us compile and organize those questions. If you have a question about something else, like the certificates or tech support, please use the chat. We will have a staffer monitoring the chat. I won't read you this disclaimer, but SAMHSA doesn't take a position on the content presented today. And now on to the important part, introducing our presenter. Rebekah Demirel is the founder and director of Trauma Integration Programs, and she's got more than a decade of experience as an ambulance paramedic, 22 years as a paramedic trainer, 18 years of mental health counseling experience, specializing in traumatic stress, and she's an licensed East Asian medicine practitioner and acupuncturist. Her unique skill set and experience are informed by her own difficult childhood and teen years spent on the street and in the foster care system. So she's really got a special empathy for trauma, difficult experiences, and loss, which I think makes her an ideal presenter for today's difficult times. I'm really pleased to welcome her back for the latest installment in her webinar series with us today. And just to kick us off, we thought we'd take the pulse of the room and see how folks are doing today. And again, in the chat, we'll share how to connect with this interactive activity. And I'm seeing some responses appear already. If you have difficulty with the interactive activity, feel free to post your response in our chat box instead. Seeing a lot of responses about fatigue, but also gratitude.
Yeah, grateful is my word today too. So it's interesting that a lot of us are just feeling it. Maybe it's the sunshine, but it's we've been through a lot together. So there's a lot to be feeling right now. Gratefulness is a nice thing, but everything else is certainly valid. I see frazzled, overwhelmed, hopeful, yeah, motivated, frustrated for sure, happy. Yeah, it's all stuff that we've all been feeling.
Yeah, and sometimes more than one thing at once, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Wonderful. Great. Well, I'm going to pass the baton to our presenter now.
Okay.
Thank you again for responding to our interactive activity. And yeah, I will see you all at the end for some Q&A.
Thank you. Okay. And we'll get there. Okay. Needed to get down to here. Ta-da! Hi, everybody. Welcome back if you've been to any of my sessions before. And if this is your first one, I'd like to welcome you. I want to also begin by making a territorial acknowledgement and saying that I live and work on the unceded traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking Coast Salish people here in Victoria, British Columbia. This is their land, it's still their land, and I'm a visitor here and I'm grateful. Thank you very much for doing the word cloud activity. It helps me just feel a little bit more connected in this funny way that we're all communicating these days, so much of it through our computers and Zoom, which is a blessing. It's a blessing that we have that. And I said, as I said, my word is grateful today. So I certainly feel grateful to be here with you, to have this honor and privilege of presenting these programs to you. So this is my plan for today. Is this session today is number 7 out of 8, and this one is it's walking together on a parallel path. So it's kind of examining how we can be on a parallel path with people that we serve. Many of us work in mental health professions, and a parallel path with just about anybody. So this is really about empathy and examining the depths of our empathy. And as I said, noticing parallels with ours and others' experiences, because finding that common ground, we share our humanity, and we actually heal as we help people heal. And I know, again, I'm preaching to the choir, I'm preaching to those of you who know how it feels to help somebody, and then to feel something shift in yourself and something move and something heal and deepen within you. So yeah, this is a really wonderful topic to be working with today. As I am an East Asian medicine practitioner and a clinical counselor, I really like to start these sessions with some sort of self-care. So I want to introduce to you, if you've never heard of keening. Keening is part of the Celtic tradition, and it's for making sounds in sorrow to release sorrow from our body, mind, and spirit. And there's good reason for this. There's a lot of sorrow right now across the world. There's people that are ill and dying, and there's this disease process that seems to just keep on going and going. So it's very difficult for many of us. And so we have this sorrow that we still need to process. We can't just put it over here while we try to get on with life. And keening, as I said, is a tradition where we're making a sound to express our sorrow. There are many cultures, in fact, almost all cultures use sounds to express sorrow. So I want to invite you to do this with me. And so to begin any of these kinds of self-care things, I'm going to invite you to feel your seat in your chair, your feet on the ground, allow your jaw to relax. Perhaps your tongue will float to the roof of your mouth. And I'll invite you to put your hands on your chest. I'll do that. And there's a picture here of the blue sky and the white clouds. And I've chosen those. I'll talk about a little bit about the 5 elements in East Asian medicine in a minute. But the blue is the water element, the kidneys, the emotion of fear, and white is the metal element and the lungs and the emotion of grief. So these two things together. Okay, so we're going to feel all grounded. Close your eyes if you like. And we're going to breathe in that blue and white and just feel our whole body with it. Feel it filling your chest, your abdomen, and even into your arms and legs and up into your neck and head, all through your cheekbones, your eyeballs, all the way down to your toes, just filling up. And then we allow a sound to come out, and it's kind of a wailing, sad sound. Kind of like the wind. Let's do this 2 more times. So inhale the blue and white. And then just release. And one more time. Filling up with this blue and white. Thank you for doing that with me. And it may seem like a strange way to start a training, but you know, all of this anger that we've been holding in our societies, in our country, in our world, for so many of the injustices and so many of the terrible things that are happening, we hold a lot of anger and we hold grief. But the grief seems so hard to express sometimes that we choose anger instead. And anger is also a useful emotion, but not only anger. So this is just to show you how the 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, are all pertaining to organs as well as emotions. And so if you look at wood, it's anger, fire is manic excitement, earth is worry, metal is grief, and that's the color white, and water is the color blue or black, and that's the emotion of fear. Also in East Asian medicine, we have not just this cycle of the 5 elements. So let's go back here for a second. And if you look at the colors that relate to these 5 elements, you can see that the white comes before the blue. So white is the mother of the blue. So grief is the mother of fear. And then we see that the white across from the green means that the metal cuts the wood. So that is all to say that when we express our grief, because grief can feel overwhelming, it's very useful to have a way of expressing our grief, such as that exercise of keening. And if we allow our grief to express, it can help transform our anger. So what I would really like to talk about today is the common ground that we can find and the parallels that we can find through our connection with people that we're working with. And so, as always, we're trying to find what we share, what we have in common, what our stories and experiences might be really different, but there is a common connection with all of us. So I know that you're all doing this as much as you can, but we need to do it not just on a micro level, but on a macro level, and to continue trying to find what we have in common. This is our pathway to peace. It's the only pathway. You know, there's a quote from Guru Ram Dass. He says, we're all just walking ourselves home, walking each other home, I should say. We're all just walking each other home. So in this way, when we're making the path by walking, and we're walking a parallel path, also know that we're walking each other home to some common place. So finding that common ground helps us find our way through it all. There's a wonderful person. He's not in Seattle anymore, but his name is Craig Renenbaum. He's a pastor. And he was the subject of a wonderful book. It is called Souls in the Hands of a Tender God. And he started speaking about this concept of companionship training. So, and he did a lot of trainings with people to learn how to work with people that we may not be able to relate to. And this is especially for the layperson who wants to help in some way, wants to help with a homeless population, or people they see on the street who they may not understand, who have addictions or mental health issues. And so the idea was to find a way to be side by side rather than across from or above when we're talking with somebody. So even if you see somebody on the sidewalk, most of us know to squat down and to be on the same level so that we can have better eye contact with them. And this is really the whole key to our understanding, is trying to look from another perspective, trying to find that common ground. And so when I stand with you, rather than apart from you or across from you, above you, it changes our whole power differential. And all of a sudden we are two equal people looking at the world from a similar perspective. So our common gaze really unites us. And that's what I really love about this whole idea of standing side by side with somebody. You know, I'm always trying to be mindful when I'm doing these talks and take care of myself. So I'm going to take a glass of water, take a little sip, and let you know, for those of you that tuned in a couple weeks ago, I shared that I got news of my brother's passing, and he passed suddenly. So I find myself still, it kind of comes in waves over me. And for those of you that have had somebody close to you pass away, grief is not a linear process. I know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she had this kind of linear process laid out of grief, and it doesn't work that way. At least it doesn't work that way for me. So I find kind of waves of it coming over me, and I just really want to acknowledge that and be transparent with you that I'm allowing that through, and just wanting to be authentic. So another thing that I do, and I'm sharing this with you because anything I share, including how I heal, is really personal, and it's personal ways that have helped me heal. So that's why I share it with you. So something that I do and I find coming up for me is this comparing and judgment. And if you're like me, you often judge people, even when we think we're not judging. It just becomes a reflex. And somehow I think we learned judgment like really early in life. And we maybe it was a way of keeping us feel safe. Like if I know this about you and I can kind of pin something on you, then it means that I can kind of separate myself and feel distant from who I think you are. And this tees right into what I was saying about being side by side with somebody, and just looking at them looking at life from a similar perspective. So just the awareness, when we create the awareness of whatever it is we're doing, then it can change more easily. Okay, so I always like to put a few self-care things in here, and this next one is body percussion. And I'm saying it's the music of our souls because body percussion has been something that's been present in humanity for as long as people have been alive. And, we're used to clapping our hands. That's the type of body percussion. We're used to snapping our fingers. That's the type of body percussion. So I'm going to invite you to tap on your chest today, and we're going to make a sound at the same time. And so again, this is to allow whatever emotion is in there to come out. And this is all of these skills that I share are skills that I share with clients, and I invite you to use them and to use them with your clients. This can be really useful for any age of person who just needs to release something. We may even find ourselves doing this in a way that's just kind of spontaneous. So with all of these self-care techniques, I'm going to ask you to just feel your seat in your chair and feel your feet on the ground. You can close your eyes. So we're going to make a sound with this too. And just feel that jaw relax. And your tongue probably floats to the roof of your mouth. Take a couple of breaths. So this sound is going to be kind of a low sound. And it's kind of actually fun to do. So let's do a few rounds of this. So I'm just going to sort of do a heartbeat with my hands. I don't know if you did that with me or if you were just watching me strangely doing it, but it's a really great thing to do with all different kinds of sounds, and you can do this with visualizations of colors as well. So let's explore empathy. Let's explore how empathy really comes from integrating our own experiences, and that's how we learn to empathize. When we have things that we experience difficult or whatever they are, when we find ways to really integrate and absorb those, then we're able to empathize. And let's face it, if I don't understand myself, how can I understand you? And if a person has never been soothed, especially when they needed it as a child, how do they know what empathy is? And I have a little story. When I was working as a counselor and facilitator at a therapeutic recovery community here in Victoria, and it was a 2-year residential program for men coming out of the prison system, men who have, no doubt had trauma in their early childhoods, and many of them had the most incredibly sad, tragic stories, and who also had substance use issues. And so I was doing one-on-one counseling with them and facilitating group work to help them learn life skills and things like empathy. And so I can remember this is kind of an ongoing class that we would have once a week. And I showed them videos, and I had a flip chart, and I talked about empathy. And I would just watch how the guys were just tuning out. They had their arms across their chest, and they were kind of leaning back. Some of them had their eyes closed. And they just were tuned out because they didn't get it. It wasn't something that they resonated with. And so I got the idea, oh, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to sit up here and I'm going to do some play acting. And does anyone want to join me and do some practice? So a couple of the guys were brave and they put up their hands, and one guy sat across from me and I said, okay, I'm gonna act something out for you. So I said, oh, I'm so sad today. I'm so sad because I had this cat for 15 years and I just loved her so much, and she got sick and she died, and I just feel lost and I don't know what to do. And the young guy across from me with his arms crossed, he would look kind of like fidgety and rolling his eyes around. He didn't know what to say. And finally, he just looked at me and he said, well, can't you get another cat? And the rest of the guys all laughed, right? Because they knew that wasn't quite what empathy was. And so I took a deep breath and I said, well, no, I don't want a new cat. I just feel so sad. And I just want someone to understand how I feel. And then he stopped and he said, oh, you look like you're really sad. can I take you out for an ice cream? And then the guys all laugh, but that was wonderful, right? That was, we just learned by doing. And that's really what it's all about, is we learn by doing. We learn by integrating our own stuff. And he taught me something too. He taught me that it just takes time and patience for us to all learn these skills like empathy. And speaking of empathy, Marshall Rosenberg, who, he's the father of nonviolent communication, and I'm sure you're all familiar with his work. Two of his books that I know of, The Nonviolent Communication and Speak Peace, is another great book. And he has so many wonderful things that we can quote him on. He says, we need to receive empathy to give empathy. And tragically, one of the rarest commodities in our culture is empathy, and people are so hungry for it. They don't know how to ask for it. Yeah, we don't know what it is that we need. Time and again, people transcend the paralyzing effects of psychological pain when they have sufficient contact with someone who can just hear them empathically. And Marshall Rosenberg certainly did that for many, many people. In his book, Speak Peace, there's one particular story that really stuck with me. And that was when he went visiting one of the prisons, and he was speaking with a young man who was in prison for sexual abuse on children. And Marshall said to him, I'm just trying to understand why you would do such a thing, why you would behave that way. And the man took a couple deep breaths and he said, well, I've thought about this a long time, but I think that one of the reasons was that when I saw the fear in the child's eyes, I could finally feel like someone understood what it was like for me when I was sexually abused as a child. Yeah, so let that sink in. So, still gets me. That very sad, maladaptive way of engendering empathy is maybe why people do horrible things to one another. Yeah. It's an incredible insight, incredible thing to understand. So I wanted to also talk about something that comes up. People, I've seen it in a lot of posts, and that is this idea of compassion fatigue. And I don't totally resonate with compassion fatigue. I believe that our fatigue comes from not from our compassion towards others. I believe that we have this endless source of compassion towards others, but our fatigue comes from not being compassionate to ourselves and not integrating our own experiences, even day to day, not just the old experiences that have happened to us, but every day finding ways to integrating our trauma, integrating all of our experiences. So this is really where the fatigue comes from, is this burden. The last session I was talking about caring without carrying such a burden. Yes, we can carry a lot. We can have these open arms, but it's the way that we carry things. And if we just are kind of clamped down and just kind of grinding through, we're eventually going to grind ourselves down. And that's where this fatigue and this burnout really comes from, is not taking care of ourselves. It all comes back to not taking care of ourselves. So I got a picture of a cake here. And I like the analogy of a cake, and not to oversimplify things, but as I said, everything that I share is what works for me. It's just my personal ways that I have found to keep walking through life and to continue healing. And so just bear with me for a sec while I talk about a cake and how we can have flour and eggs and sugar and milk and all these butter, all these things that make a cake. But until we combine them, until we integrate them, until we mix them together and bake them, we don't have a cake. We just have a bunch of different fragmented parts of ourselves. And so this is not really a formula for integration, but these are the steps through integration that you've probably recognized yourself that work to help us integrate our experiences. So the very first thing is to feel safe. And I want to talk more about this in a minute, because we think, well, I just don't feel safe. And sure, there's lots to not feel safe about right now, but there's little parts of the day, even right now, as you're sitting here in your chair listening to me, maybe you feel soothed in a way because you're getting some information and some reinforcement of things that you already know. Maybe there's a little bit of safety right there. So just feel that. And then when we have a feeling of safety in our lives, and when that can kind of grow as we pay more attention to it, then we have more willingness to allow ourselves to feel. If we just numb out and lock down and just kind of grind along, then we're not going to ever feel safe, and we're not going to be able to feel anything if we're numbing ourselves, because it's through that willingness that awareness comes. And so our awareness of our feelings, our awareness of where those feelings came from, where those thoughts came from, where those belief systems came from, that awareness is when the changes start to happen in us. All of a sudden we get insights of, oh, that's why I do that all the time. Oh, that's where that idea came from. Oh, that's why that thought comes up whenever I'm in this situation. And so these are the steps, and we get to the part where we're noticing the changes and seeing what's different in us, and being able to start to gauge our healing, that, oh, I don't feel as activated as often or as severely as I did before, and we can actually gauge our healing. And then we just keep doing it again. This is the cycle of healing, is we keep noticing, we keep feeling safe, we keep being willing to feel our feelings, and then we just keep doing all those things over and over again. So I just wanted to share that with you, because when I one day got the insight that, oh yeah, this is how it's been working for me. And I'm hoping that that resonates with you. And as for feeling safe, like all things, this is actually a skill. We may not think of it as a skill, but it is a skill for us to recognize when we feel safe, and to not just recognize that, but to really take it in, really absorb when we feel safe. So we can, what we're often doing, we're used to doing in this society, is feeling fear and recognizing when we feel fear. And that's a valuable thing too. But we can also do the same thing with safety. We can practice feeling safety. And I'm going to show you an exercise for this in a minute. And our nervous systems will remember this just like they remember fear. And believe me, this is not just theoretical. This is something that I've done and that I'm still doing. When I'm feeling safe, when I'm laying on the couch or looking at my cat, or I got my hands in the soil, or I'm riding my bike, or when I feel that kind of expansive, nice feeling, I just try to bathe in it. I just try to bask in it. And that is how we get our nervous system to actually remember what feeling safe feels like. It's in there. So this is an exercise I want to do called heart coherence. So I was introduced to something called heart math and heart coherence when I did some training with a group called Acupuncturists Without Borders. And Acupuncturists Without Borders is much like Doctors Without Borders. It's acupuncturists who go around and help people with an auricular ear protocol for stress and trauma. And so this was a skill that I learned to make our heart and our feelings and that feeling of safety and goodness feel coherent and cohesive with the rest of us. So I'll invite you to do this exercise with me. Again, just feel yourself really present where you are. Feel your seat in your chair, and your feet on the ground. Feel your jaw relax, feel your face relax. Take a couple of breaths. And if you want, you can put your hands on your chest, or just focus your attention in the center of your chest. And focus it on your heart, which is right in the center of your chest. And as you just breathe normally, imagine that instead of breathing through your nose, you're actually breathing straight from your heart. Like for me, I have to imagine my heart has nostrils. It's just breathing in and out. And so as you breathe through your heart, see if you can get that sense. Recall a positive feeling in a time when you felt really good inside. So I'm feeling pretty good inside right now. So it could be an appreciation for the good things in your life, or love, or the care you feel for someone or something that you really love to do. And just breathe that in. And feel that as part of you. Feel that goodness. Feel that safety. Feel that sense that this is always here for you to draw on. Just take a couple more breaths. And as we give our time and attention to something, it grows in our experience. So that's the whole point of this exercise, is just to continue this coherence with our heart and that feeling of safety, so that we can continue to be willing to feel and to process what comes up. And doing this kind of exercise allows us to be intimate with what Buddhists call intimacy with the 10,000 things. So what this really means is an absolute intimacy with the 10,000 things. That's happiness. That's everything. So it's not just 10,000 things, it's a million things. We're in tune and intimate and connected to everything. When we connect to ourselves, we feel much more connected to each other and to everything and everyone else. I remember when I had this epiphany that, oh, I don't have to be somebody when I'm at work, and somebody when I'm with friends, and somebody over here when I'm in the store, right? I can be authentically me wherever I go. And this may seem really basic and really kind of, okay, Rebekah, we get it. But I want you to ask yourself, do you feel like you're the same person when you're at work versus when you're at home and with friends? Would we know that it's the same person if we had a video of you at work versus when you're at home? So maybe we don't need to be different people in different places. Maybe we can just be authentically me wherever I go. Maybe we learned at some point that we had to put on some sort of persona when we're at work. I have to be tough. I have to be strong. I have to, get things done, and I have to be the supervisor, right? And we learned that somewhere, but does it really serve us? Does it really work for us when we're feeling split, when we feel like we have to be someone here and someone over here? That's one thing about me and I'm actually proud of this, that what you see is what you get. This is me wherever I am, wherever I go, whether I'm here on a video with you, or whether I'm riding my bike or talking to my husband or whatever I'm doing, this is just me. And I just want to encourage you that you are absolutely good enough who you are and where you are. And the more we integrate all these different seeming to be little parts of us, we come into just being authentically who we are and comfortable with that. When I was in counseling school, one of my supervisors would always say, we have to be well enough to do the job. We have to be well enough to do the job of counseling and helping others. And at first, what I heard was, oh, am I good enough? No, it doesn't mean that we're good enough, not good enough, or not smart enough, or not compassionate enough, but we need to continuously assess and ask ourselves, am I well enough to do this job right now? And if so, great, keep doing it, keep processing. If something comes up and you feel like, oh, I don't feel great right now, then let's do the exercise I've taught you before. Their hand on our chest. What's the matter, baby? What do you need? What's the matter? I feel scared. What do you need? I need to go outside and be by myself and take some deep breaths. Okay, good. Do that. Do that throughout your day. Do that always. Be authentic to yourself. I love Mary Oliver, so I have to read you just part of one of her poems. And you might have heard this before, but it's so beautiful. Just for love, I have to read it to you. She says, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? You do not have to be good. That's good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And just be you. Just be authentically you. You're more than good enough. Okay, one more exercise based on East Asian medicine. So beautiful picture of the yin and yang there. Yin being the feminine aspect, the receptive aspect, coolness, the moon, winter, interior. Yang being fire and the sun and summertime, and male assertiveness and brightness and exterior. Okay, so these two seeming opposites. Notice how there's a little spot of yin in that yang and a little spot of yang in that yin. So this is a beautiful exercise for balancing this fire and water, and it's also super good for your immune system. So please do this often. It's really good for you. One more time, I'll just invite you to feel your seat in your chair, feel your feet on the ground, allow your jaw to relax. And I'll just talk you through this. I'm just breathing normally through your nose. So just take a moment and think about your heart. And your heart is a ball of fire in your chest. So the heart is the fire element. And right now it's just a ball of fire. And fire likes to flame upward. But right now it's right in your chest, just spinning around. And in your lower belly is water. You can think of it like the ocean. And water usually likes to go down. So we've got fire in your chest and water, the ocean in your belly. Now these two things are going to reverse their usual course. So the fire is going to go down and the water is going to start coming up. And these two things, what do you think is going to happen when they meet? They meet right about your solar plexus and turns into steam. So this steam is this beautiful, soothing, white steam that goes all the way through your body, and it's in your bones, it's in your bone marrow. And it travels all the way through every single bone in your body, all the way up and down your spine and through your rib cage and your arms and fingers and shoulder blades and your neck and face and skull and down your legs and your kneecaps and all the way to your feet. And you feel this steam just all the way through your bones, right into your bone marrow where white blood cells are created. And that steam becomes very strong and hard like diamonds. It's very, very strong. Just feel that, how your immune system is just boosted by this very clear, healing steam that turns to diamond. Take a couple of breaths. And one more. Just breathe in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 1, And exhale through your nose for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Thank you. I used to love doing that exercise when I was really burnt out, when I was in school and working evenings and weekends, just trying to pay my way. And that was it's a really rejuvenating exercise too. So I want to finish with this quote by Adrienne Rich, a famous feminist, awesome woman. And this is about being warriors, which you all are, which you all are. And she says, no person trying to take responsibility for her or his identity should have to be so alone. There must be those among whom we can sit down and weep and still be counted as warriors. So on a number of these broadcasts, I've wept in front of you, and I've felt the love and support coming right through the computer at me, and I'm so grateful for that. Another warrior I want to mention is my former social worker. His name is John Turvey. So you'll see in the resource links on this session that I put the Wikipedia link for him, and he received the Order of Canada. John Turvey, when I was a teenager and he was my social worker, he saved my life more than once by just being somebody who stood by me and never gave up on me. So I never gave up on myself. And yeah, he was a biker. He was a heroin addict. He healed and became this amazing person who started the first needle exchange in Vancouver, British Columbia. And so yeah, read his stuff. I gave tribute to him. I also included a link for a beautiful thing that Seattle Times did. It was a project called Ignite Project Homelessness. And there's 10 of us who got up and did a little 5-minute talk. And if you go through, listen to all of them, they're all wonderful. I'm the very last, and they're just a little 5-minute videos. And I do a tribute to John Turvey because he was a warrior, and thank God somebody cared about me enough to keep me going, just like you do all the time in your work. So I thank you again for being with me today, and invite any questions or any comments you have.
Thank you so much, Rebekah. I'm not seeing any open questions in the Q&A. Our staffer who's been reviewing the chat might have seen some questions. Just giving her a moment to review the chat. There's a lot of responses in the chat to what you've said and shared here today. Definite agreement around the kind of idea that, as someone is summing up in the chat, that hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Alone yet together on our healing path is another comment.
Thank you. Beautiful.
I'd be curious if some of the exercises you had us do in the beginning with the body percussion and the keening, if you would share kind of the methodology of those, like when you would recommend kind of doing that, if people want to take that away from the session, kind of some best practices around those techniques.
Yeah. Well, certainly the keening is something we can do alone or we can do with people. I've even used it with clients in counseling sessions. Like if there's just all this grief that's overflowing, let's just make a sound and let it out. And sometimes people are locked up and not able to let the tears flow, but sometimes a sound can release some of those feelings and also helps the tears flow. So I just say do it anytime for yourself, with others. The keening is traditionally done by women in burial practices in the Irish tradition especially. And then the body percussion, we can use this not just for grief, but we can use it for joy. We can use it for celebration. We can, clap and pound our chests and, slap our arms. And if you look it up online, you'll see so many different references to it. I've talked about the choirs that I'm involved in. They're all online right now, but we definitely use body percussion in some of those, just to liven up the music, and it resonates in your chest. It's such a nice thing. So
Wonderful, thank you. I see there's some questions in the chat about the recording and the slides. We are going to provide the recording from today and the slides and associated resources online, and we'll notify you through email. It usually takes us a couple weeks to pull together that package of resources, as well as the certificate email. So please keep a lookout for our email announcements about those things coming your way. I just wanted to share once more that we have another webinar in this series coming up in 2 weeks on Friday, April 30th. And this one is going to be sort of the capstone, is my understanding, of walking the path that we make.
Believe it or not, there's more.
Yes, there's one more to go. So tune in for that final installment in our series. All of the webinars in the series have been recorded and posted on the website. So if you want to go back and review, if you weren't attending all of them, those are available at our Northwest MHTTC website. Your feedback is critical to our work, and we have posted the link to our event survey in the chat, but please take a moment to open that up and fill it out. There is one question, actually. I've gotten ahead of the chat, I guess. Is there a good book you can recommend on keening and historical practices, Rebekah?
No, sorry.
Okay,
But I bet there's something out there. So I'm going to research it. Now you've got me researching. So if I find something and I am going to research it, I'll send it to Gabriel and she can put it on. So yeah, allow me.
Wonderful. So don't forget that you can connect with the Northwest MHTTC in multiple ways. We have a website, we're on social media, and we have a newsletter that comes out usually once a month, and you're welcome to subscribe to that to stay in the loop with us. Finally, thank you so much to our presenter. It's been a pleasure to have you as always. And thank you to our audience for taking the time out for these important moments of self-care and training. We really would like to see you again. So please connect with us. And we look forward, hopefully, to seeing you in 2 weeks on April 30th.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, everybody. Bless you. Keep walking.
Yes, thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you at another training soon.
Thank you. Bye.